So I'm Karen Davies. I'm the founder and chief executive of Purple Shoots. So Purple Shoots is intended to be a reflection of what we do, but in a friendly way. So we avoided some of the typical language that our sort of company might use, words like finance or enterprise, things that put people off. We wanted to have a name that sounded friendly and approachable, but also gave an idea of growth and hope, which we think is in the word shoots. So the aim of Purple Shoots is to change things for the people who are at the bottom end of the economy, the people who are left behind, but who want to change things for themselves, who want a pathway or an opportunity to improve their lives. That's the sort of underlying fundamental aim of what we do, to move forward in some way, but often into self-employment, into starting their own business. I'd worked for a lot of my life in the financial services industry in the City of London for a while, and then more recently in Wales. And all those institutions I worked for could never help the people at the bottom of the pile, either couldn't or wouldn't do it. So I found myself saying no to people who were applying for support, who had perfectly viable business ideas and were perfectly capable of running a business, but because they didn't have money to put in, or they didn't have a good enough credit score, or they didn't have the right experience, there was some reason always that ruled them out. So I realised then that there were a lot of people left behind who could easily catch up and whose talents and skills were wasted, and the economy was the poorer for that. So I could see there was an opportunity there. And I'd learned through my studies years ago, and maybe a bit more recently, about microfinance in the third world and how successful that is. And although it doesn't translate exactly into our context, I thought it would work in Wales, because Wales still has some of the key things that make microfinance work. It's still got quite strong family ties. It's still got a good sense of community. One of the key things we do is microfinance, which is very small loans at ethical rates to people, usually to help them get a business off the ground. Sometimes it's to somebody who's already got a business, but most of the loans we do are to people who are starting out. So those will be people who have been rejected by all the other funders for some reason, but who we think are perfectly capable of running a good business. And in doing that, we can sort of set them on a pathway then to a better life, an income, an escape from the benefit system, and they can build their business up, and then they can get money from the banks, the normal lenders, and may not need to come back to us. And then the second thing we do is to help people who haven't got as far as the borrowers. So the ones who borrow money from us have overcome all sorts of obstacles, usually, to get to the point of taking out a loan and starting a business. So for the people who maybe want to get there but don't know how to get there yet, or want to change something in their life but don't know how to do it, we run what we call self-reliant groups. And these are also based on an idea from the third world where they're called self-help groups, but we've used a different name here because self-help groups has a different meaning in this country. So self-reliant groups are sort of what they sound like. We get people together into a group, and they build friendships and a support network, but then they start looking at what do they want to change, how can they change it, what skills have they got. If they want support from us, we can provide it, training or anything, but the direction is set by them and the goal is set by them. So it can lead to a small business, either individually or collectively, but it might not. It might lead to some sort of community activity or just a continuation of their support networks. It could be, so the outcomes are really very varied, but the aim is really to reach the people who are isolated and think that they can't move forward, and help them to do that. Most of the people we support have been on benefits or are on benefits. Not everybody, but big numbers of them. They've got there either because they've been made redundant, lost a job, struggled to find a job, been in temporary work that's inconsistent, all sorts of reasons why people are on benefits. Some of them may have had a long-term health condition or an accident or an illness that's kept them out of the workplace, or a caring responsibility that's kept them out of the workplace for a long time. So all those people will then find a challenge when it comes to trying to start a business or to get back into the workplace. They will have lost a lot of confidence. They may be out of touch. They may have the wrong skill set. But one of the biggest things the benefit system does is leaves them impoverished. It's supposed to is supposed to give them enough to live on, but it is barely that. And many people struggle with it, especially if they had financial commitments before they ended up on benefits, which they then can no longer meet. They will have accumulated probably a poor credit score, and they will therefore be struggling to raise any money to help them move forward and get out of that situation. It's a bit of it is a downward spiral, and that's the biggest challenge they face. There are a number of reasons why they might struggle. One of the biggest ones is the stigma that's associated with anybody that's on benefits. The wider community often will write people off on benefits as lazy or scroungers, or they've somehow deserved to be poor, and forget all the advantages that they might have had that have prevented them from ending up like that. So it's very easy to get into that downward spiral, and very difficult to get out of it. And once you're in that spiral, you'll have accumulated a low credit score, as I said. You won't have any money to put in because you can't have any or hardly any savings if you're on benefits. So then if a normal financial institution looks at you to lend you some money, they won't be able to do it. So that's why they struggle. And so their only option, apart from us then, are the high cost, the payday lenders or the illegal lenders. That's where many people end up. So the process we try to make very straightforward. What we're looking for is simply a viable business and a person who looks like they're going to be able to make it happen. That's the key thing. And we don't, I wouldn't say we don't care about the past. We look at the past, but we don't let the past colour where they might get to in the future. So there's an application form. It's only 2 pages or 2 and a bit pages, very simple application form. Many people, when they come to us, have written a business plan. If they have, we'll see that, but they don't have to write one. We usually want to know something about the figures. So if they haven't done any sort of forecast or any sort of budget, we'll collect the figures or we'll talk them through the figures together so that we can make sure that it's going to work. We collect 1 or 2 other things that we have to collect, like their ID, bank statements. But it's fundamentally a very personal process. So we'll either meet the person in person or online, whichever we can do. And then that gives them an opportunity to tell us what the business is, what their plans are. And that way we can check that they've thought of everything, and we can help them if they haven't. But often the people we come to are not used to writing a whizzy business plan. And in fact, if we get a whizzy business plan, we're a bit suspicious as to who's up to think that somebody else might have written it. But we're interested in whether the person is really committed to the business and is able to do it and has thought it through and it looks like it's going to work. So those are really our criteria. A low credit score doesn't necessarily rule them out. A lot of people think it will, but it won't with us. They think it will because it does with everyone else, but it won't necessarily with us. So it's usually a straightforward loan over 2 or 3 years. If it's a really small loan, it might be repayable over 1 year. And it's repayable in monthly repayments with a small interest payment on top. People can repay early, and there's no penalty for that. So it operates in that sense like any other loan. So we've got a network, a small network of volunteer business helpers, mentors, whatever you want to call them. So we've got some accountants, some marketing type people, some HR people, who will all offer some free advice to our clients if they want that. So what we say to people is if they once they've started, they're not on their own, we can offer a whole range of support, and they just need to ask for it. Sometimes we might identify something in the process. So if we're with somebody and when talking them through their business and they say, "Oh, I can't, I'm not very good with accounts," well, then we'll see if we can find someone to help them with that, or we'll help them set it up. So we've seen some real transformation in the people that we supported, and that's one of the really good things from my point of view of what we do when we see people really moving forward. We can see almost straight away when you agree to do a loan for somebody, a boost in their confidence because somebody has believed in them, and lots of people actually say to us or thank us for believing in them, which is lovely. And then it's almost as if our loan has just released all that pent-up energy and capacity and skill, and we see the business succeed. And I can't take any of the credit for that. That's them, and all we've done is remove the last barrier that stopped them doing that. But lots of our businesses go on to grow, to employ people, and do things in their community. It does a lot. It does a lot for people. It does start solving the poverty problem. I've had a few people who've said that they were, or who we've seen, who were badly in debt when they started their business and are debt-free now because the business has given them enough income to completely change that. In our groups, we've also seen changes in people in our groups. Often people in our groups perhaps have limitations with disabilities or long-term health issue that stops them actually working. But you can see that they have grown anyway as people done things that they might not have done before, earned a bit of money either for the group or for the community. You can see them just blossoming as people, and that's very rewarding and good to see. I'm not going to pretend there aren't failures, because there are some people where the business doesn't work out. I think it's often not because they couldn't do it. I think it's because when they start the business, they're quite vulnerable because they've got nothing behind them. When I started Purple Shoots, I had a husband with a full-time job, and I could afford not to earn any money for a few months whilst we got it off the ground. People who are starting from benefits haven't got that luxury, so they've got to make it work straight away. And if something happens to muck it up, there's nowhere to go. So that's the reason why some of the businesses don't work out. What we've noticed, and I wish I could get some figures to really prove it, is that even those people whose business doesn't work, they then often go on to get a proper job, a full-time, not a temporary job, a full-time job. So the self-reliant groups, we encourage them to start saving almost as soon as the group begins. So they put £1 a week or 50p a week or something into a group pot. And it's surprising how quickly that accumulates. And then they might do things together to earn a little bit more money. And so the pot grows. And then that gives them choices then about what to do with the money. 1 or 2 of our groups have ceased to be groups just because everybody in the group has either got a job or they started a business together, which is a success in itself. We've got one group of people who have additional needs, and they have together, they're the ones that have set up a business collectively, which is the first one of those that's done that. In the Fundus world, a lot of people are very interested and want charities to aim at those. So we almost looked at those and thought, oh yeah, we're doing that one in a way. The way we're sort of tackling it in a way is really one person at a time. We believe that doing small things changes big things in the end. So each person that we support into a business, or each person that we support through one of our self-reliant groups, is another step towards meeting those goals for the people in this country. There are a few things that I think are quite simple to change that would make it a lot easier for the people we work with. One of the biggest things for the people who start the business from the benefits is the way that the universal credit drops off. If you're on benefits and you start a business, you keep your universal credit. Every pound you earn over a certain threshold, you lose 60 pence of it. So for a year, maybe more, you're working, but you're no better off. And I do understand the reasoning behind that, but the problem with it is that there's no way then that you can build any sort of reserve for disasters. And that's one of the reasons why businesses fail, because if you have somebody who doesn't pay you, if you have a piece of machinery that breaks and you haven't been able to accumulate a reserve of money, you can't do anything. That's it. The business fails. If they were able to hang on to more of their universal credit or more of their earnings and not lose universal credit just for a little bit longer, then that would change, and that would make it much more likely that more of these small businesses would succeed and grow rather than struggle for so long. And the families of the people who are working with them, could move out of poverty faster. So that's a big change. The other change that I'd like to see also relates to the benefit system, and that's around sort of earnings and savings when you're on benefits. So there's a limit to how much you can save up. So if you're made redundant and you get a redundancy payout, you can't claim benefits until a lot of that is spent. You're supposed to live on that. So if you want to build a business with that redundancy payment, you've got to be really quick, or else it's all gone because you've had to use it to pay your rent and all your bills. So if you could hold on to more savings, that would also help more people to build their businesses. And the other thing I would like to see is more capacity for people to test out businesses without losing the benefits, especially people with some sort of disability. Within our self-reliant groups, we're providing that opportunity for them, but there's a limit. There's a silly limit to how much they can earn before they can actually before they have to make a decision about whether to move off benefits or not. If there was more flexibility and less fear that if they earned some money and declared it, it would trigger some sort of review, you would find more people with disabilities able to try out working for themselves or working in a part-time way that accommodated whatever their disability is.